And I see so many really good DJs who don't get the credit they deserve. They don't get the bookings they deserve. They don't get the money. And I mean, even legends have to go fund me for medical concerns. But then you have the 2-minute DJ who's made millions already, monetize themselves, but yet a legend is struggling. There's something wrong with that. I think people want instant fame. You want it quick, you want it fast. The sad part is that you don't care. That you don't care about why this great thing has been built. You just jump on it and say, okay, I'm here and I think I need to be in charge and I think I need to be at the head of it. So that's some Columbus shit, you know what I mean? There's gonna be no room for anyone to do anything independently anymore. And if that happens and they decide that there's not enough growth or not enough profit, they might shut it down and take their losses, and then the scene is gone because they own it, but they're just not using it. So I think independence is key now more than ever. Yo, this is DJ Bone, and this is my interview on NIGHTMAG for XCEED. As a kid, it was limited. Your entertainment options were very limited. There wasn't a lot of TV channels. So you would catch like the new dance show in Detroit or the scene. And, you know, you'd see people dancing, you hear this music that, you know, just electrifying. It was just, you know, something where you're sitting there as a kid and you're moving, but you don't know why. And as you get older, that whole, it's not even the music that goes with you itself only, it's the vibe of listening to music. So you have a special relationship with music where it's like a life soundtrack. My friends snuck me into the Music Institute. You know, I was too young to get in, and they would go in, my friends were old enough to go in, and they would pay the bouncer to open the back door. Or they would try and come and sneak and open the back door, and we'd just sneak in there. And it wasn't difficult because at the Music Institute, the MI, they didn't serve alcohol. It was an after-hours club, and it was strictly about music. It was all about music, it was all about community. So it was easy to get in there. As long as you weren't causing trouble, they might even know you're underage, but they just didn't want any trouble. You know, no drugs. There was a high, zero tolerance for drugs, you know, back then. So I get in the Music Institute and I just was blown away with what I heard, you know, and how I heard it. You know, Derek May playing like Lil Lewis off of Reel to Reel, and not even like Music Takes You Away, not even French Kiss, but the early stuff. And it was crazy, man. Hearing Fingers Incorporated for the first time, Marshall Jefferson, all these historic tracks, you know, even tracks by like Cybertron or Model 500 that I didn't know were made by Detroit people at the time. It was the best thing I'd ever experienced, you know, emotionally. And then at the end of the session, you would go upstairs, basically to the second floor, and that's the only part that had windows. The whole main downstairs was just dark, pitch black with strobe lights. No club lights, no nothing, just strobes. It was like church, you know, it was like church for us, and it was phenomenal, man. You know, I mean, that changed my life forever. Just going there, experiencing what I saw. People still to this day don't believe me when I tell them I used to go to all black techno night, and they're like, really? Black people used to look, yeah. In Detroit, it was nothing but techno. Seriously. You have Motown, techno was the same. It was that much a part of the city. It was the city, it was the soundtrack. You ride around, every car is bumping, you know, a Kevin Saunderson track or a Juan Atkins track, you know. And as it progressed, you hear him bumping Drexcia or DJ Assault. You know, I was spoiled, of course. You know what I mean? You had The Wizard on the radio. It was just, you know, I could listen to Al Esther or go to, there was a gay club called Heaven. Groundbreaking, Ken Collier. It's amazing. It was like Detroit style house set. I'll never forget. And it was such a dangerous club that he would have to stop the music sometimes because somebody's trying to stab someone on the dance floor, or, you know, and it wasn't about security coming and kicking people out. He would just be like, children, if you don't behave, I'm not gonna play any more music. He would get on the mic and everybody would just be like, you know, okay, we're cool. And they'd just chill. The next thing you know, we start the music back and everybody's okay. But after outside was a different story. But inside, on the dance floor, no violence, no nothing. And it was a Detroit vibe. It wasn't like the techno we know now. It was Detroity techno. It was just a little faster paced than house music, but funky, really funky. I miss the realness. I miss people genuinely going somewhere on their own, with or without friends, because they want to be there and they want to hear this music. Not it's the place to be, or we heard that such and such is very popular. That's what happens nowadays. A group of friends decides where they're gonna go instead of each individual saying, I'm gonna be here no matter what, and I'll catch up with you later. Just being determined and intentional with what you want to pay for and enjoy. But I miss that. I miss people really caring about who's playing, what kind of music. And that's the point, you know what I mean? You don't even know who's playing. You're just going because it's the place to be, the popular club, and that's your whole mission. So we don't want to be a part of that. Club full of people like that who are there just because they think that's the best place to be. No, the best place to be is where the best music is. I have to say that the American crowd is more in tune with the regional aspects of what this music is. And I give that to very few places in Europe, only because at the beginning, I don't know why, but they kind of discount Belgium. Belgium was huge in techno in the beginning. I mean, huge. You had DJs, or it was like pronounced Jax, you had all these proper, amazing labels that a lot of Detroit guys were releasing on. Peace Frog was around. All these things that were coming out, before everyone was paying attention to the Dutch stuff or the German stuff, because of course you had Trezor, which was an entity unto itself. But Belgium as a whole, they were on fire for a while. Seriously, club-wise, label-wise, you name it. Early, there was a good relationship between Detroit and Belgium, and even festivals and everything. So that was a good scene unto itself. And I appreciated the difference between that and what was happening in America. America was very regional. What I did love about Europe, though, was listening to pirate radio in the UK when I go to London. All the music I listened to mainly at the beginning was through pirate radio. That's where I first heard drum and bass, where I heard two-step. Even before he blew up, where I first heard Craig David, I was just like, this is some black shit, this is really dope. And all of it was pirate. It was so good. And it was so interesting because if you went too far, you lose the signal, because they didn't have these big broadcasting capabilities. It was a limited area they could broadcast into. So you would have to be in a certain spot to be able to listen. And I thought that was pretty dope, And then it was music that was originating from black neighborhoods in London and being introduced to the world. I was like, oh, this is crazy. So I think even globally, with all the differences, there's still the commonality of an inner city group of people being able to express themselves musically, because usually in the inner city you don't have anything. You have less than most people have, so you have to be creative, but it was easy for me to link the two based on how people grew up in certain neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, basically. I kind of forced myself into it. I had to find out. I was like, okay, where can I get these songs? And everybody's like, oh, you have to go to Record Time, you have to go to Buy It Right, you have to go to, Records for You and all this. And I was like, okay. So now I'm sitting there playing it on my parents' stereo, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, because I was staying at my dad's house and I'm playing it on the stereo, and it was cool and all, but it's not the same vibe of a continuous mix or, being able to control how fast or slow it can go. So then I had to get into the turntables, cheap, super cheap turntables, at first with the pitch control. But I learned how to DJ on those just to be able to keep the music going. And I just kept practicing on that. And then I would just upgrade my setup whenever I could, if I saved up enough money to buy real Technics 1200. That was the day. And back then, compared to what they cost now, they were cheap, compared to what they cost now, but it still was a lot of money back then. So you are thinking, okay, either I'm gonna save up to get a car, or I'm gonna save up to be a DJ. It's easy for me. It's easier for me because of the way I was raised, because of the way I grew up, what I grew up around and with, and what I, pushed through. So I think that struggle not only breeds creativity, it breeds a realness that you can't hide. So if you don't have that realness, even if it doesn't come from struggle, it can come from anywhere else. Self-motivation, from being a smart person, from doing well in school. But if that's you at the core, then it should be able to shine no matter what. It should be able to be your purpose. What happens is if you don't have that at your core and you try to be something else, that emptiness is still gonna float to the top. And that's what people call phony. That's what they call fake. That's what they call, preconceived. You run out of the essence of who you are, and you have to stand there and try and convince a crowd, like as a DJ, that what you're playing is good. For me, I'm watching DJs as I'm growing up, and the one thing I noticed is they never had to cheerlead. They never had to blow kisses to the crowd. They never had to point, and count down to the break or do some kind of weird dance moves and spin around and do the splits, whatever. They didn't have to. The sole purpose of the gathering was music, and the music is to move the people. I'm not saying it's everybody who dances, because I know people who can really play, like amazingly, and they can dance around, but they've earned the right to dance around, you know what I'm saying? You don't just hit start and then automatically just, So I don't care what you sprinkle on top, image-wise, but at the base, at the bare minimum, please have skills. Please respect the craft. Please try your best to have a level of art inside of the performance. You know what I mean? And I see too much performance, not enough art, not enough expression of who you truly are. If you came from a rock and roll background, let it through in your music or what you do, your whole persona. If you came from funk, soul, Detroit techno, Chicago house, let it through. And I think that's missing. I think people want instant fame. It's like what I consider a microwave mentality, drive-through career. You want it quick, you want it fast, and you don't care. The sad part isn't that you don't put in the work. The sad part is that you don't care. That you don't care about why this great thing has been built. You just jump on it and say, okay, I'm here and I think I need to be in charge and I think I need to be at the head of it. So that's some Columbus shit, you know what I mean? It is, it truly is. Respect the foundation, respect the layers, You need to dig deep, you need to be humble, you need to be respectful. It's a difference between admiring, respecting, and just fanning, fangirl, fanboy, just like, oh my God, it's so amazing. You're the best. You know what I mean? McDonald's hamburgers are the best, according to sales. And I see so many really good DJs who don't get the credit they deserve. They don't get the bookings they deserve. They don't get the money. And I mean, even legends don't get what they deserve. And that's sad. They're overdue. And then now you have people who either have to work a day job or don't have a retirement, have to go fund me for medical concerns, But then you have the 2-minute DJ who's made millions already, monetize themselves, but yet a legend is struggling. There's something wrong with that. It's getting to a dangerous level where it's encroaching upon every aspect, sound and lighting, and you name it, event spaces. There's going to be no room for anyone to do anything independently anymore. And if that happens and they decide that there's not enough growth or not enough profit, they might shut it down and take their losses, and then the scene is gone. Because they own it, but they're just not using it. They're like, we're just going to put this over here for a while. You never know. So I think independence is key now more than ever in this day and age, because techno, house, electronic music has been so commercialized and so monetized, on levels that I'd never expected. it starts to swirl in my mind, like, are they approaching these people because they respect the artist, or are they approaching these people because they think you can take our brand to a demographic we've ignored, or we didn't know they existed, now we want a piece. It's getting really dicey. And I do deal with companies, but it's people who I know who work there who I respect, or it's companies who approach me on a certain level of helping us with homelessness, to help the homelessness epidemic or certain things like that. That's why most of the life of my labels, my music career, the majority of it now, every penny from the record label goes to our homeless homies charity. So every download, every vinyl, t-shirt, if I do a remix, whatever I get paid goes, there's gotta be something where they know what I'm about when they approach me. And when they do approach, it's gotta be something that, where they know who I am. I think that's what keeps me true to myself. I think the cool thing for me is a lot of people that I've run into appreciate what I do and what I've done. Even young people who come in, they go back, like we'll see it in the order. Somebody will order a download or something, and next thing you know, you'll see 2 days later an order of like all the back catalog. You know what I mean? So they're like doing their history, they're doing their deep dive. I think in general, I just want to be known as somebody who was humble, who was talented, who had a mission, who kept to their beliefs, never sold themselves out. And I think it's beyond music. I wanted to be as a human, period. The way I treated people, the way I approached certain situations, trying to help, trying to give back, being genuine, saying what I mean what I say. That's the legacy. You know what I mean? I don't have to be upheld as a superstar or he's the greatest and, is the most amazing. No, just, I really enjoy what he did, or I really respected where he came from and what he stood for. That means more than anything, is when people respect what you stand for. My ultimate goal is not to DJ until the wheels fall off. I want to DJ as long as I can because I love to do it, basically. The hardest part is the travel. And the travel takes so much out of your body. It'll knock you out of sync. It'll mess up your metabolism. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into what I call a semi-retirement. So I'm gonna basically base myself in one city to retire, and I'm gonna play in that city. And if people wanna hear me, they can come there. It would start and end with this, what I think is the strongest part of, it should be the strongest part of a DJ's career, is a residency. Every DJ I respect, utmost respect for, has had a residency. When I was growing up, it was all about a residency. And that's where you build a crowd. It's not tourists, it's not, the place to be. And they came there to see that DJ on that night because it was church, because it was a moment, and I want that back. And I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna claim it, because I'm gonna make my own Vegas outside of Vegas. You know how people in the pop world, when they retire, they go to Vegas and they're like, okay, I'm Celine Dion, you can come see me in Vegas. I'm gonna do that in the city where I wanna retire and be happy. And hopefully, people will come see me. Maybe I play like every weekend, no matter who comes, I don't care, but I'll be happy. Yeah, I'm not saying. Because if I say, what happens is every time I let an idea out, I've had so many ideas or so many concepts stolen from me in my entire lifetime. Whether it comes to doing a video, a DVD, a mix, or a certain concept of a track. And whenever I put it out there, it's so quickly somebody will try and do it faster than me. Somebody who's more famous, somebody who was famous will do it and then just be like, yeah, I came up with this idea. No, you didn't. You watch this video of me and then 6 months later you copied what I was talking about. So yeah, I'm not gonna name the city, but we'll see. Just somewhere preferably tropical, but who knows? Just wherever I'm happy, you know what I mean? Comfortable, happy, good living, enjoying what energy I put out, I wanted to come back to me. And I don't know, we can still do some good for homelessness, and I don't want to stop that. I want to keep that going, of course. Philanthropy, it feels good. Yeah, but that's the legacy, eating my wife's cooking, making new tracks. I'll be 70 making tracks, I don't care. But why stop? As long as you can do it. Yeah, and I encourage all old school, older DJs, seasoned legends, whatever. Don't quit just because you're frustrated. If you're flustered, frustrated, about the scene and what happens, I call it going on strike. Even if you need to take time off, don't stop, retire. Don't end it. Just step back a little bit. Like when these trends come in, with when it was the minimal trend, the new minimal, when it was the really hard techno, I just took a step back, because that's what happens when you build a core audience. They love you no matter what. They're still going to be there for you. So I was cool during all these trends. And now the funny thing is, after a trend, it always comes back to Detroit techno. Always. The foundation, the blueprint, it always does. I can't keep vinyl in the shops. I can't go try and find some of my vinyl. It's not there. I have to do a massive repress. It's crazy how much every promo I get now is everybody trying to make Detroit techno. And I can hear it in the AI, I can hear it. I know who's doing AI, I know who's doing it genuine. I hear it, promos, I hear that shit. But it's just funny to me that they went from bang, bang, bang to, oh, now I'm gonna do this really soulful, really, movie soundtrack like techno. And it's funny to me. It always comes back to Detroit. And then it'll sit there for a while, and then the next trend will come, and it'll go wild for a while, and it'll come back to Detroit. Think about it, after trance, after tech house, after electro clash, after the new minimal, after the bang bang techno, the baseline is Detroit. It's always the constant. So retirement will be good, but in order to not be too antsy and just annoy the shit out of my wife, I will still have to go play.
I'm not annoyed.